you ever thought about using a reverse mortgage to solve some of the retirement income challenges that you face? Well, here to talk with us about that is Doug Buchan from Buckingham Strategic Wealth Advisors. Doug recently wrote an article for us here at Retirement Daily about this very subject, and now he's with us here to talk about it. Doug, welcome.
Thanks, Bob.
So if you could, hand walk us through the article that you wrote for Retirement Daily.
Absolutely. First, though, you mentioned reverse mortgages, and I just want to, I think actually one of the biggest problems here with adoption of this is almost an issue of linguistics. Quick backstory. When I first graduated, I somehow finagled my way into one of those fancy schmancy investment banking training programs, and my boss at the time was breaking down the different divisions. And at that point in time, 1996, the most lucrative, most exciting division was the high yield fixed income desk. But just 6 years prior, he told me, it was the least profitable, the least amount of stuff going on there. But as Bob, you probably know, in 1990, 6 years prior, they were not called high yield bonds. They were called junk bonds.
Right.
And a few years prior, we had a bunch of defaults in junk bonds, and the industry kind of dried up. So the marketing geniuses on Wall Street fixed the glitch. They changed the name, right? Nobody likes junk, but who doesn't like high yield, right? And the industry kind of took off. Here, I think we have a similar problem, although I think that was more a euphemistic term. I actually would call them junk bonds. But the term reverse mortgage, to me, I don't even understand what that means. To me, the technical term of this product is the right term, which is a home equity conversion mortgage. What this essentially does is it takes the equity in your home and it gives you the option to convert it to a mortgage, essentially either now or in the future. And to me, it's a fabulous tool for certain folks.
Right. So in terms of, there are many misperceptions and misconceptions about reverse mortgages. Do you want to sort of just go through some of them and we can talk about perhaps?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think the biggest one is that, and as I wrote in the article, that, home equity conversion mortgages, or we use an acronym, HECMs. HECMs are for poor people. And to me, it couldn't be further from the truth. I would actually say it's a decent tool. It's a good tool for folks that really need money today and have no other options. But it's a potentially tremendous tool for those that don't need money today, but may need money decades down the road.
Right. So, it strikes me 15 years ago, people would say, financial advisors would say, oh, we wouldn't use them in our practice. Today, I'm witnessing many financial advisors recommending them to, among other things, solve the problem of a sequence of return risk.
Yeah.
Do you want to chat about that for a second?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And if you run your Monte Carlo analyses and throw things into your financial planning software, if you draw a reasonable draw from your portfolio, you're going to get different things spit out in the Monte Carlo results. But if you add this layer, this tool to part of the plan, your Monte Carlos shoot through the roof. And it's simply because you're giving yourself essentially a guaranteed growth rate of what you can take from your home, what you can tap from your home years down the road. So it's let me just give you a quick example. If you take let's take a 63-year-old couple that has a $650,000 house in the Northeast, and they've paid off their home. They could take out a home equity conversion mortgage today and not tap it, right? And this is where it gets the difference between, folks that can't afford it versus those that can. You take it out today and don't tap it. There is a guaranteed built-in growth rate to what you can draw, such that at age 93, and for this particular couple, I may tell them, you're in wonderful shape. If you live a short life, you're never running out of money. But if you start approaching the late 90s, things might get a little dicey, right? At age 93, if you take out this home equity conversion mortgage today, your house is worth $650,000. At age 93, you can tap $1.3 million from your home, no questions asked, tax-free, that you can use to fund your retirement. So you plug that kind of money into a retirement model, again, all other things being equal, and you gotta making sure that other things are right. But it makes the numbers look fabulously better than they otherwise would.
Right. So let me go back to some of the misperceptions that you noted in the article. One of them being that the bank can take your home away from you if you have a reverse mortgage.
Yeah, and actually, this is actually one that was, I talk about, misconceptions, complete outright hyperbole, and then some half truths. As I did more research on this, I learned that there were situations that the non-borrowing spouse could have gotten into trouble with these reverse mortgages back in the 90s and early 2000s, such that so by law you can't take out a HECM until you're age 62. So what happened in the past for some is that there'd be one spouse that's age 62, the other is not age 62 yet. So they changed the titling where only one spouse owned the home, took out the HECM, passed away years down the road, and then a non-borrowing spouse, the bill was due, and he or she had to come up with the money, or they would essentially throw you out of the house. So that did happen. There were situations. They have since fixed that. 2015, they passed an act. Congress passed an act that prevents that from happening from a non-borrowing spouse. So nowadays, to me, the risk of being thrown out of your house is far less than the risk of being thrown out of your house if you own just a regular mortgage, right? With a regular mortgage, if you don't pay your property taxes, and you don't pay your homeowner's insurance, and you don't pay back your principal and interest on the mortgage, you can be foreclosed upon. In a HECM, one of those three goes away, and that's the principal and interest. You still, of course, need to pay your property taxes, and you need to pay your homeowner's insurance, but you no longer need to pay principal and interest on that loan until you either move or pass away. So the borrowing that you take from a HECM, you are not required to pay back ever until you move or pass away, which is a huge difference from a traditional mortgage, and allows more liquidity for someone that no longer has that monthly bill to weigh them down.
Right. And obviously HECMs have fees, but there's a misperception that the fees are high and outrageous.
Yes, and they are high. Like any, well, I shouldn't say high. They're higher than a traditional mortgage. They're much higher than a home equity line of credit. But the features I talk about, to me, for many people, those features far outweigh the costs. But this isn't free, right? So it's an insurance. Part of this is an insurance vehicle, and insurance costs money. So a normal mortgage, you're paying, 2% of the mortgage. Here you're paying around somewhere between 3 and 4.5% of the overall value of the house when you take this out. That's not nothing, right? But 2% of that 4% goes into an insurance pool, essentially, that is guaranteed by the FHA and HUD, the Housing Urban Development Division of the government, such that this premium, this 2% of the value of your house, goes into this pool, and that's what allows you to get this sort of guaranteed growth rate of your home. Because there will be situations for some folks where you have a $600,000 house. 20 years later, you can draw $800,000 from that $600,000 house, and the house is not worth $800,000. So the government is going to eat that cost. So that's essentially the insurance piece of the puzzle.
Yeah. So it strikes me that as people enter retirement, having all the tools available to them makes a lot of sense, and that I've read some research that suggests that getting a HECM with a line of credit as early as age 62 gives you a lot of flexibility as you think about the next 30, 35, 40 years of retirement. Any thoughts on that strategy?
Yeah, to me, the earlier you do this, the better, because you're getting more and more leverage, right? This growth rate starts at time zero. So if you take it out at 62, it gives you potentially 30 years of growth before you tap this at age 92, right? So I think, well, again, a couple caveats. If you have no interest in staying in your home for the long term, doesn't make sense, right? But you're exactly right. To me, with financial planning, it's a lot of art with some science. We can run all our models, but we know that models are not going to be accurate. To me, the three biggest sensitivities in financial planning: one, the percentage that you draw from your portfolio, right? If If you draw less than 1% of your portfolio for the rest of your life at age 62, you're never running out of money, right? Conversely, if you draw 10, if you at age 62, you want to draw 10% from your portfolio annually, you're going to run out of money no matter what you do, right? So you got to get that right draw. If you do that correctly, then the next big sensitivity is your asset allocation. What percentage of risk assets or volatile assets you have in your portfolio versus non-risk or non-volatile assets. But the third biggest factor in my mind is the one that I hear wealth advisors and financial planners sort of hesitant to talk about. And it's a big one, and that's the luck factor, right? And it's huge. You know, you could have retired in 1980 drawing 4% from your portfolio with a 60-40 allocation, and 30 years later, you passed away and gave your heirs $8 million, right? That same couple, if they retired in 1966, they ran out of money at age 89. They did the same exact thing. They just retired in 1966 instead of 1980. The only factor there was luck, right? So this tool, in my mind, for some people, significantly reduces the luck factor. It just adds an extra arrow in your quiver that you may never need to pull out, you know, and if that's the case, great. You never ran out of money and you never needed to use it. But if you start to get in trouble decades down the road, having this guaranteed growth rate in your home, I think it's a phenomenal vehicle.
Yeah. Well, Doug, I want to thank you ever so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom about this topic. It's much appreciated.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thanks, Bob. Thanks for the time.
Yeah.